Prakash, let me start with you. This man, Mohammed Sharik, who was accused in two separate UAPA cases before what happened in Mangaluru, surely should have been on the radar of terror agencies, anti-terror agencies, the NIA and others, Intelligence Bureau. How is it that he was able to travel to Coimbatore, to Ooty, Nagarkoil, then Mysuru, where he was living for the last 2 months under a fake identity? Isn't that a slip up?
No, no, last month there was a bomb blast trial in Shumaga where two of his associates were arrested by the police. A timely arrest was made then, and this Sharik escaped from the police net. And he was off the radar. Probably he must have been off the radar once his friends were arrested by the police. Subsequently, has resurfaced in Mysore. Then he has come with a bomb with the intention of exploding it in a crowded place to Mangalore, which is become a very sensitive area with series of agitations and disturbances in the coastal belt. This PFI ban and subsequent developments, probably that has motivated him to create some disturbances and disturb the law and order, peace and harmony in the district. And fortunately,
Mr. Prakash, even in a normal case, even in a petty crime, if you're out on bail, you have to report to the police station once a week. There are restrictions on your movement, etc. Here is a man who is wanted in two cases under Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, which is one of the most stringent criminal laws in this country. He is moving around freely, although under a fake name, fake identity and all of that, but he's freely moving around to 5-6 different places before this blast happens in Mangalore. And it's sheer luck that this blast happened in an auto rickshaw when he was traveling alone. God forbid, had it blasted off in a market or a railway station.
No, it would have caused heavy serious damage to the life and property of the people. I agree. I don't know the provisions for the bail when he was given bail. I don't know what are the conditions of the bail when he was given. Unfortunately, he was arrested and UAPA, the court gave him the bail. I don't know now what grounds they believe that he is not a harmless fellow.
Okay.
And today he has been again caught in a terror activity.
Let me ask Aiyshwarya Mahadev, there are serious charges against this man. Not least, of course, there was this sort of trial run, if you will, that happened in Shimoga. It happened on the banks of the Tunga River, where two of his associates, Maaz Ahmed and Syed Yasin, both were arrested. Sharik was reported as absconding. Now the cops are claiming, in hindsight, there is evidence to show that he was in contact with Mateen Ahmed Taha, who is a known member of ISIS, Al-Hind ISIS. He was managing the Al-Hind ISIS's activities in Karnataka. And that he also had met Jamisha Mubin, who was the main accused in the Coimbatore blast, which again happened a few weeks ago. And this man had traveled to Coimbatore. Now, fact is that radical Islamist terror in South India is a very, very real problem, best exemplified by this man, Mohammed Sharik. He was moving around freely, he was in touch with known terror associates, and yet some people in the South tend to believe that radical Islamist terror is not a problem in the South.
Good evening, Zaka. I think first and foremost, the government here, whether centre or state, seems to be far more active in jumping to action against octogenarian pastors as opposed to people who are actual real threats. First and foremost, I unequivocally condemn any act of terror, irrespective of from which denomination or which side. Anything that invokes violence and creates harm in society is something that necessarily has to be clamped down upon. And I think fundamentalist terror across the South is something that is spreading. But the larger problem here is the very fundamental failure of law and order in this situation. If a person has cases of UAPA against them, it is not a simple bail order for them to be moving around freely. It is about a tracking and a monitoring procedure that has failed. And especially in coastal Karnataka, which is so nascent, along with Shimoga as well. And, looking at the agencies that coordinate so much with the state government for other issues, I wonder what happened in this case, because situations like this, if they get out of hand, will foment far more communal and societal instability. And you do realize this is the run up to what you are going to see as a very us versus them state of elections in my state. And this, more than anything else, is the government has to own up to how there was such a massive lapse.
No, but Aiyshwarya
How
Mahadev,
is
the
it that
point that
somebody was allowed to
BJP has
travel
been
across
making
states?
is some political parties have been having a soft attitude on terror, some even having some kind of underhand, covert political understanding with some of these groups, or at least the political wings of these groups. And that unless you take a bipartisan, almost apolitical view, terror is terror, you are not going to put an end to this problem.
Zaka, I completely agree. And in coastal Karnataka, you see the ruling dispensation hand in hand with an organization they recently banned. You see two of their functionaries talking about how this organization that was recently banned, that is something that is very critical to their functioning. You see RSS, BJP Karyakartas also talking about the same. And I think now that they've made this stand, let us also hope that they do sit firm on this resolve.
Okay, let me get Dr.
Violence,
Kartha in. There was a feeling that after the PFI ban, that a large part of the activities of such folks, people like Mohammad Sharik and others, there will be a massive clampdown. There is a signaling of intent by the political administration, whether in the center or in the states, to go after these guys. But the fact, and again I keep saying this, it is sheer luck that this bomb exploded in an auto rickshaw where so far there are only 2 people who have been injured. This could have very well gone off in a railway station or in a crowded marketplace. So it was sheer providence that it ended up far less impactful or far less devastating than what it could have been. Is it time now for us to, remove the political rhetoric from this? Yes, you've banned PFI, but that is only the first step. That is not a panacea to radical Islamist terror in South India.
I absolutely agree with you, Zaka. The fact is, we've seen a considerable, all of us, I think, are agreed that there has been considerable Islamic State activity in the south, in Kerala, the Kerala module leading on to Karnataka and elsewhere. And this has been there for some time. It's not just about PFI, it's about a whole, a whole number of groups which are acting together. And this has come from areas in Kerala, which we know has been for years been extremist. But in Karnataka, Zaka, the point is that this particular area has been viciously communalized even during the Congress era. I mean, let's not forget that. There 1998, 99, there were riots. The whole thing started sort of boiling up at that point of time. Subsequently, let's face it also, Karnataka has been the worst in terms of, the burqa ban and so on and so forth. So if you choose to do such things, you can expect that an Islamic State entity will definitely come and use that place, will use the kind of dissatisfaction that there is to create chaos. So it's your choice. It's absolutely, as you said, if you can keep the political aspects out of it, these are innocent people who are getting killed. These are troublemakers who are some of them who are there. And you want to stop this, you have to take the politics out of it. It can be stopped.
Let me ask Mr. Balwinder Singh. So 2 points that I'm curious about, and these were warning signs, and how come, no one picked on these warning signs. One, there was almost, like I said, a test run of a bomb blast that happened on the banks of the Tunga River in Shimoga. It was an experimental blast. In fact, 2 of his associates were arrested. I don't know why he was not, when already he should have been under the radar of the agencies for 2 other cases under UAPA that he was wanted for. The second one, the fact that he was able to stay under a fake identity, or at least use the identity of someone else and someone else's Aadhaar identity to stay on rent in Mysore for a good 2 months, does raise some very serious questions. Is it so easy to fake identities in this country, to fake Aadhaar cards in this country, that a terrorist can live as though he's a railway government employee? That's the ID of the person that he impersonated or that he faked. A government railway employee for 2 months in Mysore, and from there he goes to Mangalore and this blast happens.
Yeah, stealing the identity of persons is actually very easy. It's extremely easy to steal the identity, fabricate an Aadhaar card, change the photograph, Nobody verifies when they take a tenant that whether this Aadhaar card is genuine or not, and they have no means of verifying it. And when it comes to your question whether operationally the police is equipped to keep surveillance over all people who have been identified to be linked with terrorist activity, I think we really need to upgrade our operational capacities in every state. And that's a problem we face everywhere. If there are hundreds of supporters, people who provide logistic help, it's not as if each person who is involved in a terrorist offense can be kept under radar all the time. It is operationally not possible. So ultimately, police agencies, with their limited resources, tend to prioritize it. And in that process, many people escape the net. So it's a question of operational capacities, the manpower, the technical capacities, the technical capacity to keep surveillance. All those, I think we really need to understand that South India faces this problem in a big way, and there is need for upgradation in every sense, human resources as well as technical upgradation.
So where is the problem? Because we are led to believe that one part of the problem is also political. Certain political parties don't want to be seen as going overboard with these measures because it upsets a certain vote bank. How much of this problem is political, and how much of it is actually from a technological/technical point of view, lack of resources or whatever you were referring to? Because the spin that's being given is that soft on terror is the reason why we're seeing this in South India.
I fully agree with you that terror has to be above politics. You cannot have a political party supporting terrorism, and that I think is absolute no-no. There is need for creating an environment in which we have no tolerance to terrorist or even sympathy towards terrorism in this country. Look at the profile of this gentleman, this person. I will not call him a gentleman. He's a BCom graduate. And if you look at previous cases also, profile of persons involved. Now, what is it that is creating an environment of indoctrination among educated youth? I think that question has to be addressed at the policy level. And how do we address this issue? It has to be addressed both at political level as well as at the intelligence and law enforcement levels. So that issue has to be tackled. But operational preparedness, operational capacities have to be upgraded. Coordination between agencies, we have to work more on it, both between center and states as well as between neighboring states.
Okay.
Entire South India is affected. For that matter, entire country is affected.
No, S. Prakash, the fact is that, as Tara Kartha also said, if in Karnataka you are having this hijab debate sometimes, halal debate sometimes, are Muslims safe in that state, so on and so forth. If constantly the narrative is this, then some of these educated youngsters are going to end up doing things like Mohammad Sharik. Of course, the fact that the security agencies let it slip needs a very serious investigation. How is it a twice UAPA charged man was allowed to get out of their radar? But the political argument that's being made is, if you're constantly going on hijab and halal narrative, then there will be a backlash to it, and sometimes the backlash can take this form. Also, when PFI was banned, BJP leader after BJP leader said, this is the biggest dent against terror. After that also we are having terror attacks.
What was the motive for the cooker blast in Tamil Nadu? Recently, in the Coimbatore, similar incident happened. Was there any debate about hijab there? Was there any debate about halal there? It was not there. The government there was not even willing to accept it was a terror act. And it took 4 days for the NIA to enter the investigation arena. Why did the Tamil Nadu government delay so much? There were several terror activities have happened across the country at several places. Do you mean to say only in Karnataka, only because of halal and hijab debate, this incident is happening and it is justifiable? And here in Karnataka or in India, unfortunately, the fight against terrorism is looked upon as a communal agenda. And political parties, they do not consider the life and property of the human Indians are paramount, but they look at it as a vote bank is most paramount, and they stand by it. They even create a parallel narrative that there is a saffron terrorism in India. It is this way they are strengthening the hands of those elements who are out to divide the nation, who are out to create disturbances in the country.
No,
and
so,
the party,
so
be specific.
Be specific, Prakash Aure. Who are you accusing of treating this as a vote bank politics? Or who are you accusing that for some people vote bank is more important than terror? Be specific tonight.
No, I will not point out one political party. It is many political parties in the opposition they jump to the support of these terror elements when the government takes a very strong measures. They even opposed bringing UAPA Act. They want a softer law to try the terrorists. They give several examples that the existing law is inadequate to try all these terrorists. And this mindset strengthens the hands of those elements who are creating problem for the nation's security.
Mahadev, without naming any political party, he's saying many opposition parties have taken this soft on terror approach, as a result of which people like Sharik tend to get away with it. Like if he was arrested under UAPA and kept under watch of the security agencies for that case that got registered in 2020, subsequently he got bail in that case, but I don't know why he escaped the radar of the agencies. But the larger point that Mr. Prakash is making is that it is an atmosphere, an environment of being soft on terror that allows these people to think that they can get away with it.
You know, Zaka, dodge and deflect seems to be obviously the BJP's playbook when it comes to having no answers for a breach and a serious security lapse. Because let us talk about the reality today. They have a government here, they have a government in the center, they're a double-engine sarkar. They have this huge push about somebody's 56-inch and red eyes about national security and how they're going to weed out any form of things that stand against national unity and is a threat to internal and external security of India and her borders. And you see that this is happening right underneath their nose in a state where they have a government as well. Mr. Prakash has no response for that breach or that lapse of security, especially when somebody who's in a UAPA case and also twice over should have far more surveillance, and that has not happened. And today what he's going to talk about is people soft on terror. I'm sorry, when it comes down to, if you're pointing at my political party, when you made these big fundamental fantastic moves of banning organizations, did the Congress oppose it? No. We said you should have done it earlier. If you had sufficient proof, why don't you do it earlier? Why don't you have far more thorough exercises? And you have a double-engine sarkar to do it. They did it a year just close to elections for their own benefit. Zaka, their playbook is literally this. They have nothing to answer for their lack in national security. So they're going to make it an us versus them. They're going to make it a communal sort of debate. And that is what is dangerous in society. When you asked him that question, the fact is, when you create this idea of victimhood and vilification and ostracism, you're obviously going to push either side of the spectrum on whichever faith or religion, you're going to push people to be far more extremist. And this is a self-fulfilling prophecy in the way that they're acting. And the minute you paint it this way, you further vitiate these already sensitive areas. And the BJP doesn't care because this is literally their only electoral plank. This is merely a national security failure on the part of this double-engine sarkar. And the BJP